Hello YouTube, this is Matthew Williams and I'm just bringing you a little reply which I thought I'd also reply to on YouTube, because this is from the Crop Circle Connector forum, and somebody asked me, can I ask you a serious question? Have you forgotten why you got into making crop circles in the first place? And actually this brings up a number of points, and I did give a detailed response which I'm going to sort of read out some of the main highlights from for you, and I'll go through it quite quickly, but I basically say I don't think I've forgotten why I got into crop circles in the first place. Sorry about the noise. Although which bit of crop circles you mean is ambiguous, because if you mean the WoW phase, that where I believed crop circles to be real, you know, or do you mean the Maker phase, in which case that's where I was making crop circles, but I still wanted to help people understand the truth. You know, when I was in the WoW phase, I wanted the truth, and when I was in the Maker phase, I still wanted the truth, and I wanted to give people what I knew as the truth. So then you got the arrested phase, where I was then able to talk openly about making circles, and I still wanted to get the truth out to people, but now it was a lot easier for me to do so. Even though being arrested was actually a negative thing in many respects, it did allow me a chance to speak. Now, I've also gone on to make another large sort of statement about why I'm into crop circles, but the point is, I think, that people are asking questions about crop circles, and you know, I get people regularly on YouTube saying to me, you know, oh, you don't know what you're talking about. You know, if you knew what you're talking about, then you wouldn't be saying these things, because the crop circles are just so delicate, and there's no damage at all, and nobody ever gets caught. And you know, I had to answer somebody tonight. Nobody gets caught making a crop circle. I've answered this on YouTube in the past, but if I haven't mentioned it recently, because I can't remember if I have or I haven't, but if I haven't mentioned it, I'll mention it now. This question about, do people get caught making crop circles? Yes, they do. Somebody got caught this year in the East Field, the big formation that looked like a sort of insect thing. It was elongated, it had lots of circles going along a line, and then sort of had like a pincer head type thing. Well, that crop circle was definitely man-made. The reason was that we can say this is because people up on the hill, it was a very illuminated night, and maybe I shouldn't use the term illuminated, because some people will say, oh, it's just illumination. No, okay, we'll say something else then. It was highly lit because the moon was out. Okay, so there was a lot of illumination that night, and the field was bathed in the moonlight, so people could see people working. And they had their cameras, and they sort of set up, and they were doing time-lapse photography, and they were able to see the circle being formed, being made. So people came down off the hill. Now, remember the words of Rob Irving, right? He said this many years ago, so I'm quoting Rob Irving. He said, and it's in the Circlemakers, I think it's in the Circlemakers video, he basically said, working at night is not a problem, but you wouldn't want to work in the moonlight because it would be too bright. In fact, if you were trying to work in the moonlight, we'd probably call it off. Right? So those are Rob Irving's words. Now then, somebody decided to work in the moonlight. It was very well illuminated, that field, and it's a full moon. Apparently it was a full moon. I don't know for certain, but I was told it was a full moon. Certainly, people could see the people working in the field. So anyway, the Circles researchers came down off the hill, and they ran into the field, and they ran up to the Circlemakers who were working. The Circlemakers grabbed their boards and ran out of the formation, so they left it incomplete. But then, strangely enough, now this has never happened before to my knowledge, the Circlemakers then decided to come back, and they actually spoke to the people in the field, and they said, yeah, we're the Circlemakers, yeah, you know, you caught us, yeah, bang to rights, fair enough, okay, but you know, this is unfinished, they said, you know, we haven't actually finished doing this, there's a lot more to it, so we're going to come back, and we're going to come back tomorrow night, and we're going to finish this off. So apparently, you know, they made this statement they were going to come back, which I think is that's a little bit wild for Circlemakers to go stating they're going to come back to the same place. You know, there's going to be people waiting with video cameras, and then they're going to have absolute evidence you were making that circle and damaging the field. They could take that to the police. So, well, anyway, Thankfully, the Circlemakers didn't return to the field on the next night, which is what they said they were going to do, and they actually returned a couple of nights later. Now, check this out. Right, there was... Sorry about the noise. There was a second team a few nights later who were making a circle in East Kennet, and I don't know how this came about, but apparently the circle's researchers were tipped off that there was going to be a circle made in East Kennet if they wanted to come along and see if they could find the people making it. So the circle's researchers did. They went to East Kennet and they did find them. They found the people. Well, they had a pretty good tip off, you know. And so they were looking around, and lo and behold, they found the team making the circles. Now, I did hear that there was some argy-bargy went on between the circle's researchers and the team that were making the formation, which is kind of crazy because they'd already said they were going to be there doing it. So why shout at the Circlemakers when they'd actually told you they were going to be there doing it? But there we go. Anyway, so there was some sort of like altercations went on. I don't know the full details. I haven't bothered to find out the full facts. But anyway, whilst the researchers were taken away to this other team who were making this other formation in East Kennet, the people who made the one in the East Field went back and finished the one in the East Field that night. So this other team, and I'm not sure who this other team is because we're all a little bit unclear as to who they are. But apparently, snuff, they showed themselves, so they're known to the researchers. The researchers know who they are. I think there's been mention of the fact that formation which was made, which is a pretty basic formation, it had nice swirl lays in all of the... It was like not a Celtic cross, a Christian cross. You know, so it's like that. Yeah, the cross further up, not in the middle. A Celtic cross is a cross in the middle. Christian cross is up the top, like that. And then on each of the 4 points, there was a circle which had some swirls in it. Anyway, that's irrelevant. But the point is that they were caught. Okay, they tipped people off that they were going to be there, but people were able to find where they were. There's a lot of fields around East Kennet. There's a lot to choose from, and yet these people were found. So, just proves to you, if you know where to look, and if you're actually bothering to look, you can catch people in the act of making crop circles. The East Field is a classic example. Now, that was proclaimed then to be man-made. It's all over the internet. It's man-made. And the rest is history. But it will not stop people from saying, oh, nobody ever gets caught doing these things. Well, they do every year, normally. There's usually one team or another gets chased away from completing a circle and they have to leave it half finished, or they know that the researchers seem to be showing a lot of attention towards that field, so they have to get out early and they don't end up finishing it quite as much as they want to. They sort of roughly, quickly, get it to what looks sensible, and then they leave. Now then, this always happens, but people won't believe it. They don't listen to it. So anyway, I think I'm probably going to run out of time, so I'm going to stop it here and we'll go on to part 2.